In this video, I will show you how to make an underwater viewing platform just like this for your dinosaurs and mammals in Prehistoric Kingdom. I will show you not one, but 3 ways that you can manipulate the water so you can create some really awesome habitats and unique designs. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is go to modular pieces and then you get a flat floor here and then pop that down. What you want to make sure is when you go to your toolbox, the little cog setting here, make sure that this is turned on, and this is going to flatten the terrain surface so it's completely flat. So make sure that is definitely blue. And then we are just going to get 15 of these tiles down. I'm going to hold down my left mouse button and drag that. Press Ctrl D, so that's 5, 10, 15. And then again, we want to hold down our left mouse button and drag to select everything else. Ctrl D to duplicate that. Z to rotate. And then we are just going to make a bit of a square like so. Now what we want to do is fill this with water. So if you come down to your terraforming tool here and then go to the third tab, you have calm water, rough water and also muddy water. And then there is a little bit of a slide bar here. So this is your size, you can see that going up and down, and then this is your depth. So we want it to be 6 meters, so we'll just slide that all the way to the right hand side. And then we're just going to paint in here. Doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to fill that gap. And then because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I like to go to my terrain tool, go to the level button, and then we are just going to be going down into the water and making sure that we can level this all out, which is really good if you did want to make a swimming pool. So you can see that it is all nice and leveled out. So that is the easy part, and you can see here that it does depend on the size of your brush, then alter the sides, but we can just go back in there and fill that section in. And from here, what we want to do is go down to our guest facilities. Now, basically from the kiosk, everything on this top row is really good to use the flattening. And I am going to pick, actually we'll go for the kiosks. Now because I want this to be really straight, I'm going to select this brown boardwalk. We're going to go to edit group and then we are just going to start placing these down. And it doesn't matter if it is perfect or not, we are just going to place a bunch of them. So that is perfect. And then what we want to do is select all these. So from the top view, again, you can select your mouse button and make sure that all of them are selected, and then go to split from group. Select this and move into place by hitting V on your keyboard, and then we're just going to drag that down into the water, and then we're just going to get down into the water as well and make sure that is on the ground. So I'm going to make sure, yeah, that's looking good. I've just placed that, and what that's done is it's already gotten rid of the side of the water. You can see it there, it's starting to manipulate that. So from this stage, what we want to do is come out of that group entirely and then just save your game. So once your game is saved, then just go back in and load up that exact same file that you just saved.
A few moments later.
Here we are, we have loaded back in. What we want to do is select those kiosks which are down in the water. Let's see if we can grab a hold of them. There we go. And then all we want to do is just move it ever so slightly, left or right, it doesn't really matter, and then place it down. And you can see that that is starting to break away at that water even further. And then from here, we just want to press Ctrl Z, and you can see it's starting to remove the water. Now, if you wanted to make this a little bit more deeper, just again, place that there. You will get this little ridge bit, but as soon as you press Ctrl Z, it will start eating away at that. So that looks pretty good to me. Maybe you want to have it a little bit further out. And again, we'll just put that under there and Ctrl Z. And there we have a little pool bit. So from here, you will probably want to go away and decorate this, and it is a little bit of a dinky pool, but that is absolutely fine. So if you wanted to put a platform down here, if you go to your modular pieces and then select a floor piece, now remember that this has to be turned off, because if it is on, it is going to manipulate the water, so keep that in mind. And then from there on out, you can just easily put down your floor pieces. Go ahead and grab a wall piece as well. And then we are just going to pop that in place, and you probably want to change this to glass so the guest can actually see through it. So we'll just pop down a couple of them. If you want to then change it to glass, go down to the basic tool here, and the first one is your glass. There is a kind of an outside and an inside version of this, so you can see that the frame's sticking outside there. So I'll just rotate that around, and then we can go away and pop that down. Then from there, what you can do is you can just keep on building this up, or you can use the stretch tool, which is really useful in Prehistoric Kingdom. So we're just selecting all of our pieces here, and then we are pressing V on our keyboard to get our advanced move. Bottom one is your scale tool, and all you want to do is move that all the way up to the top. So that is looking pretty good to me, and pop that into place. The only thing you would maybe want to do from this stage is again make this look a little bit more fancy. Build that out there, and then yeah, maybe put in some rocks. And you can also get rid of the bit around at the side here if you don't want that. And what is really cool about this as well is the dinosaurs will come in here really easily because it's just a really nice slope. Do be mindful though of like little bits like this, because that's sitting quite close to the water's edge there, and what you will find is the closer that you get to this, the closer it can really break it. So just be extremely mindful of that. So that is our first tip tutorial on how you manipulate that kind of water. But now what we're going to do is have a look at building a tunnel. So for the tunnel, I've went a little bit bigger. I've actually went for 15 along the side here, and I've made sure that it is further enough away from this one so the water is not going to manipulate that section there. And again, it's the same as before. We are going to go for a rough water this time, and the depth we will go for 5, just for a bit of variety. And then we just want to paint this all nice and make it flat, as you have seen me do before. So I'll just quickly do this, and then we'll jump to it being nice and flat. Okay, so that's it nice and flat now. So we are going to go to our guest facilities again, and my technique of editing to that group, and then we're just going to place these down as we did before. So we'll cut to that section. So there we go, we've got all the kiosks in place, and we just want to again select all of them and split them from that group. And then from here we are going to move it to the middle of the pool and put it down into the water, and make sure that this is on blue, and then that has flattened it out there like so. And then what we want to do is save our park. So now we've loaded back into the park, so we want to move this ever so slightly as we did before, and you can see there that's manipulated it, and Control Z, and it has split it down the middle, which is pretty awesome. And then from here we're just going to remove that bit in the middle by pressing delete. Now if you did want this as a floor piece like before, you want to go to your modular pieces, get your flat floor here, make sure that this is set off, and we are just going to put it close to there and move it over ever so slightly. You can see that that is going to go under the water, but that's okay. So we now have it all underneath, but you'll see that there's a little bit that we might want to bring up ever so slightly. So yeah, that's looking really good. And then it's just a case of making the walls at the side. So I've got one side done, so we're just going to select all this and move it over into the other side and flip it around. I honestly wouldn't attempt to try and flatten this out. I will give it a quick save, but I genuinely don't think that you're going to be able to manipulate this without affecting the terrain. Okay, so I've went for the smallest one, but I genuinely think this is going to break it. Yeah, I thought it would. Because what the idea was, if we could get this deleted and flatten this out, then that would be really cool. But unfortunately, yeah, it's going to manipulate it, but you know, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You would just then have to maybe cut it off a little bit rather than it being all that close. But yeah, bear in mind when you go to flatten it, you do get these funky parts like that. So let's go ahead and load back in our previous shiny part. Okay, here we go, before the disaster happens. So what I would advise to do, if you wanted to make this look a bit better, I'm just duplicating these ones here, and we're making just like a little area. Okay, so that gives you a bit of an idea of what you can do with it. So I've went away and put in some stairs there, so your guest would be able to easily come down there and have a look at the mammals and dinosaurs swimming without breaking it. So this is easy enough to manipulate and duplicate over if you wanted to have it on both sides. But yeah, just a really good idea of what you can do with having a tunnel parting of the seas. Okay, so we're going to try a third one, which is going to be a tank-like aquarium style something. So again, we're just going to do the exact same technique. So I'll meet you back here once everything is set up with the water and it's all flat, because you've seen it twice. I don't think you truly want to see it a third time. Okay, so that's it all nice and flat now. So I've got my row there, and we're just going to save it and come back into it, and then we'll start manipulating the water again. Okay, so we've loaded back in, and you can see that it has been split, which is perfect. And we're going to drop that into the water. And again, we want to make sure it is along the bottom, because it's so muddy down here. It is quite difficult to tell, but that looks good enough there. And we're just going to drag that out so the back is ever so slightly away from that. And we are just going to say, yep, there's good enough. And then we are going to go Control Z and remove it. And then we just want to move this into the other way. And I'm going to make sure that my angle snap is on to 90 degrees, so I can easily just flip that around like so. And again, you guys probably guessed what we're doing. We're just doing the same, creating a surface level here, bringing that out a bit and saying yep, that's good, and then Control Z, and then you guessed it, we are just going to move it again into the other side until we make a tank. So this bit's quite good, because now you can actually see the bottom there and you don't have to go under the water. So let's go there. Make sure that's covering the whole entire thing. Looks good. And then that side as well. So flip that around and move into position. So now from here we have a water surface which kind of looks like jelly a little bit. But it's still really cool, because there's so much that you can do with this, especially if you wanted to make maybe a fountain or a water feature. Let me go see if I can manipulate it into making it look a little bit better. Okay, so it is a bit of a green mess, and I would honestly advise probably not using this kind of water when building something like this. Probably this or even this would be a lot better. Probably the clear water, to be honest, but hey, it's personal preference. But yeah, I've made kind of like a waterfall kind of splash zone, which would be really cool if we had like a mosasaurus or something and they could be swimming in the tank, and then you could even manipulate this bit so you could make a stadium, and this is kind of like a splash zone, and it's got railings as well, so yeah, you could come and stand at the back here and get splashed or whatever else. But yeah, it's a cool technique to manipulate the water, that's for sure. So that is, my friends, the 3 techniques that I can show you today. If I come across any other ones that I feel would be helpful or beneficial, make sure you subscribe for any future tutorials or uploads for Prehistoric Kingdom.